This podcast is supported by listeners like you. We're grateful for your tax-deductible donation at newthoughtphilly.org or the link in the episode description.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marcioni and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marcioni.
It is wonderful to have you back. Carol has been away, unavailable for the last couple of weeks. I've been solo, and it is just a delight to have you back.
Thank you. Nice to be missed.
To instill new and different questions and sometimes things that I wouldn't have thought of. And the one that you've got for us today is I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's a lot of that going around. And there's 2 ways that I see that. One, this is the perfect place, the perfect position to be in, to find or receive some kind of maybe divine download or some kind of divine direction. Because until you just kind of throw your hands up, you're still in it and figuring it. But unfortunately, there are situations that throw us into that feeling of helplessness and just not knowing what to do next. And there is a lot of fear in that as well. Just not knowing where things are going. So, and as I said to you backstage, that if spiritual leaders have anything to say, if it's important to be a spiritual leader, it is most important at a time like this.
Because there is our work in the world, and then there is our spiritual practice. And when the stuff that's going on in the world is so overwhelming, there's a lot going on. There's many things going on. There's things going on in the United States. There's things going on in Ukraine. There's things going on in Israel and Gaza and Iran and other pieces that are moving around. And it's really easy to get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people who I've spoken with are doing the information equivalent of putting their hands over their heads and going la 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 la. I don't want to hear it. I had somebody who was talking about the protest that we had, the No Kings protest, and he said, "I haven't heard about that." And I say, "Well, it's there's a lot of stuff about what's going on in the Los Angeles, with 5,000 U.S. troops called on." And he said, "I hadn't heard about that." It's like, you got to hear about a little bit of something. You don't need to be a cable news junkie, but there's a way to understand what's going on so that you can be informed about what's next. Mm-hmm. What's the next thing to do? Because the solution to being overwhelmed and not knowing what to do is not to stop paying attention.
It's scary. There are people who are not paying attention because I have no idea why. I mean, because that doesn't flow with me. I want to make sure I know what's going on all the time. It doesn't even have to be anything great happening because I just like to know. But especially in a situation like this, I think maybe that's another way of handling fear, perhaps, to just deny it. And, at the end of whatever it is, we'll see. But I've heard so many statements that are just like, I've given up. I got somebody that was asking me how this fits in with the prophecies in Revelation. And so, I have to be kind, but I'm saying that, listen, stop looking for reasons to make that true, make that a real story, because since that's there, then this is a convenient way. Even if we could fit all of this into every one of those prophecies, you still have to figure out what to do. You're not going to sit
Right.
there on the couch and say, okay, I'll just wait until whatever. This is not a moment for us to be blind. I understand confusion. I understand fear. I understand everything, every emotion that people are experiencing. But at some point, we are not children. The children are depending on us. So somebody has to be the adult in the room. How about we go for that and see where we get to?
Yep. And with so much going on, it's easy to get overwhelmed and say, well, I can't fix all of this. And therefore I'm not going to try, and I'm not going to pay attention. And my idea is we need to pay at least enough attention that we don't miss our cue.
Mm-hmm.
When there is something for us to do, we need to notice that it's ours to do. Because you've fallen asleep in the middle of a movie. Someone says, that was great, that plot twist. And you go, what? Because you missed it. And you don't have to stay glued to the whole thing. You don't have to get invested in all the drama, but you need to pay enough attention that you can hear your cue. And it's not that it needs to take a whole lot of mental gymnastics in order to do that. Because, again, back to the fundamentals of practical prayer, there's an infinite intelligence that knows everything. And that is the same intelligence with which we are thinking. So if what you want to do is just be guided to be paying attention at the right moment, that's the prayer. To know that that infinite intelligence is making me aware of exactly what I need to be aware of in exactly the perfect way and the perfect time. And if you're concerned that that's going to be like subtlety and tea leaves that you have to, and it's going to be clear and obvious, right up there and unmistakable, a big sign.
This is and I want to not use the word that I want to use, but I can't figure out what to. This is our
We'll use it and then we'll unuse it.
Okay. Nah, I don't think you can fix it. You can't fix it. So this is okay. So this comes from pastoring 30 years, okay, in 3 different denominations. And being in church leadership before that. And I'm saying that not as this is who I am. I'm saying I've heard a lot of stuff, seen a lot of stuff, whatever, and been a part of teaching it, blah, blah, blah. And, pouring the Kool-Aid, I confess to all of that because that's who I am right now, the totality of all of that. I know what I did. I know how I recovered. Bam. But here's the thing, no matter what church pew you sit in, whatever banner is across the door, it is taught as a lifestyle, whether it's organized religion, the doctrines and all of that. It's a lifestyle as well as in spirituality. I take this to be my lifestyle. So I'm looking for it to teach me how to live in any given situation. Okay, so that's wonderful. It's wonderful, but the situation is here. Every now and then, life situations hit, and there should be something. If you were paying attention at all, there should be something. That was my whole thing. Like, pay attention because you may need this information later.
Right.
When the divorce happens, the life doesn't turn out, the job doesn't turn out to be what you want. All of that sitting and being attentive and all of this super God stuff, and I mean that respectfully, it ought to work now because I never felt like I was sitting in church because I didn't have something else to do. I didn't pour into sermons because it was nice. a creative thing to do. It was real to me, as well
Yeah.
as it is now. So when I say opportunity, you know, that was getting me to this point. This is big. This is major. And so now is the time to call on all of that wonderful stuff that we absorbed and that felt good. It had to be meaningful or it was for nothing.
Yep.
So that's why I kind of said, like, people don't know what to do. This is the time. Remind us what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to think, what the mindset should be. We're not going to do it all on this, but that's the way. That's what people are looking for, I think.
Yeah. Yep. There's the old joke about how you get to Carnegie Hall. Practice, practice, practice. It's the same way that you get to the spiritual groundedness is practice, practice, practice. So when somebody comes to me and says, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do, I tell them the same thing that I always tell them. Dive into your spiritual practice. And if you don't have a spiritual practice, then start one. And you can tell that it's a spiritual practice rather than a hobby because you do it on a regular basis. It's like, oh, I meditate for 6 minutes every Sunday at the Sunday celebration. That's not it. I mean, it's a nice start, but what are you going to do on Monday? What are you going to do on Wednesday? And do you need to meditate, every morning or morning and evening? Do you need to meditate for an hour or 2 hours or 5 hours or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or like what's? And I don't have an answer for that. Practice. Do something and do it on a regular basis and then see how it fits and how it feels and how it works. And it doesn't just have to be sitting in silent meditation. It can be about finding an inspiring and uplifting and insightful book and reading from the ascended masters, from some of the people who are doing new work now. Listen to a podcast where you find it to be uplifting and insightful and informative. Watch a show on New Thought Media Network if it's something that particularly sings to you. And make sure that it gets not just to your head, not just something that amuses you, not something that just makes you feel good, but something that stirs your soul, something that inspires you with the awareness of that infinite creative power. So that's the whole idea of a spiritual practice, is to allow us to feel more connected with our spirituality. Because God knows what you should do next. But that's not an exasperation. That's the truth. God knows what's next for you. And if there's something for you to know, God knows what that is. And when we cultivate that channel so that we can open up and allow and invite and accept the infinite giving us that guidance, then it happens. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the infinite will not push it on us and say, you need to know this. I mean, every once in a while I get a lesson with a spiritual 2x4. Because, nope, you got to learn this. I keep getting smacked by the same thing over and over again until I finally realize that there's a lesson here. It does work that way, but that's not the comfortable way. And when we're in a situation where we're claiming that we don't know what to do, that's not when those sorts of lessons show up. There's a process.
And I like the term spiritual practice, but there are those who have spiritual practices that are confused as well as those who don't. And here's my thought about that. Spirit is always aware. None of this is without Spirit's notice or being aware. So don't sweat it so much. Get quiet. Just calm. Here's my thing. Just calm your little self down. Just calm your little self down. We're intelligent. We are accomplished. We are used to being able to be successful to some degree, maybe not as much as we would, but to some degree. And then now you're in a place where I don't know what to do. Okay, well, just calm your little self down and don't look for a magic moment, because the magic is there. And it will get to you as soon as you just calm down. I was reading from Florence Scovel Shinn yesterday to a group, And I know why I was reading it, because I had promised to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the responses were amazing, because Spirit just came through in so many affirmations and so many thoughts, and it wasn't planned. I could not plan something like that. And those that were there to hear it, they were just there to hear Florence Scovel Shinn. But what was to happen, nobody could have planned it nor even thought about it. Okay, so I planned the thing, so I know I didn't plan it. I didn't have.
Yeah, well, you plan to talk about, to read Florence Scovel Shinn, but you didn't plan on the resonance that it was going to have, and the perfection of that moment, and that being exactly the message that was necessary. And yeah, that's a spiritual practice. You had that thing scheduled for a while. You knew that you're going to do that's part of your practice. And then it turns out that part of your practice was even more meaningful than you had thought. And that's the yield benefit of the spiritual practice. You keep doing it because something will happen, and no, you can't plan when or what.
And that's the exciting thing about it, because as many times as I've read Florence Scovel Shinn, sometimes I read and it seems like I'm reading from an academic perspective, and it's information and whatever. And so I know, okay, I do this but something was happening in the reading, and things that I read before, it was really getting to me at that moment. And that's what I trust about this journey, the yieldedness in this journey. I mean, I'm going to use the term magic because I just like that word, but the magic is always present, and it shows and it activates itself when it is needed to be. And last night there was such a need. How am I supposed to know that? That's like you said, that's the plan. I plan out everything 2-3 months in advance. And then today when I spoke to people, they were still talking about Florence Scovel Shinn and I'm thinking, I don't remember all that. But it's not mine to do, it's not mine to know. It's mine to just show up. And so calm your little self down and show up and do what you always do and watch. I just want to throw this in because I think it's funny. Like people throw this term, we're co-creators of our own reality, and it sounds really nice. It sounds empowering, but I thought, come on, we need more than this, right? So I'll say we are co-creators with the divine of our own reality. And I said, I need a little bit more than this. So to me, it's like, okay, you're a co-creator. You do your part. God does God's part.
Yep.
You can't do God's part, and God will not do your part. That's what it means.
Nope.
So
the Amish used to say, or probably still do, pray and move your feet.
Pray and move your feet. And
pray and move your feet. Align yourself with the infinite, but don't, they said, pray to God that you're going to, win the lotto, but you actually got to buy a ticket.
Yeah. And and we don't know. Sometimes you don't know what dance to do, right? To move your feet. Just do what you do. Just do what you do.
Right.
Because everything is necessary. Everybody is important.
Oh, there's a great metaphor. Yes, we're dancing with the infinite, but we're not leading. If we're doing the wrong dance, we'll be guided into the right dance. Let's take a break, and when we continue, we'll talk more about knowing what to do when we don't know what to do.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marcione's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the New Thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marcioni.
Wonderful, wonderful conversation about what to do when we don't know what to do. Because a lot of people are saying, I don't know what to do. And it is completely understandable in these challenging, difficult end times that we're living in. In the segment before the break, Carol, you were talking about people wanting to know what all the prophecies in Revelation mean. And went through the exercise of looking at the end times. And apparently in the Watchtower, they were insisting from the late 1800s that the end of the world was going to be in 1914. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the downside of of going with those predictions, is that when you roll past it, and the same year was the start of World War I, and also the founding of the International New Thought Alliance. World War I ended, the INTA is still going on. So end times, who can tell?
Listen, the end times have been predicted by so many people. It's crazy. So we can all remember this one. 2000, Y2K.
Oh.
That was another one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, all right, now y'all might have had me way back, right, when you were talking about what, but how is this going to be the end? So everybody's grabbing water and toilet paper and stuff. I'm thinking, why bother if this is the end? Why bother? It was like, it was really crazy. And I was living in a wonderful, wonderful community. And I looked around and I said, now, I don't see anybody here panicking. When they panic, I'll panic. Mm-hmm. But I'm not getting in it. But people really believed that in their heart, and they found stuff in Revelation to make it be true. And I'm thinking, all right, well, I'll see y'all at the end of all this, because this too shall pass. And now I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling it.
Okay. For me, and I very clearly remember Y2K, and I'm living in the house that I'm in now, moved in 1999, specifically because I wanted to be in a property that had its own four walls when the calendar rolled over. And that one was, the whole thing was self-inflicted. The whole thing was self-inflicted. And I was working in technology and with a large company that did data processing systems. And I understand exactly what the problem was. And I understand exactly why we had to spend as much time and energy as we did to remediate it way back in the good old days. So the Y2K, because it's not that the Y2K wasn't a problem. It's that it was a self-inflicted wound, and we managed to heal ourselves before the deadline. Mm-hmm. So the problem was that back in the old days, when storing stuff in computers was expensive, they put all the years in as 2 digits, because it's 1987. So you just put in 87. They all start with 19. But then suddenly there's going to be the one that starts not with a 19, it starts with a 2. Mm-hmm. But if you only have 97 and you're calculating anything based on subtracting the year that it starts from the year that it ends, suddenly you're going to start having negative numbers. Mm-hmm. And for computer systems that aren't used to having negative numbers, that's a problem. They're going to go, and shut down or stop or do unpredictable things like open the gates on the dam or shut down the reactor or turn up the reactor. So those were the sorts of things that people needed to pay attention to remediate that. And it was an exciting time, and nothing happened. And that's because people realized that the self-inflicted wound needed to be recovered before the deadline, which was December 31st at midnight. Mm-hmm. So that one worked. There are other things that are going on now that are also self-inflicted. We're doing stuff because somebody assumed it would be a good idea, and then it's turning out that it's not, and then we have to fix that. But yeah, the end of the world, no. Even an extinction level event, There have been several, but
Mhm.
we're here.
Mhm.
We're here after the extinction level event. So that's got to tell you something about the importance of it.
And there's something that you said, and while you were talking about the Y2K story, and then going forward, there are people that have great minds that know what to do in various levels of crisis. So, if we were all depending on you tech guys to fix the Y2K, listen, fix it. Tell me, I can get the software and figure it out, but you guys have to really, know how to put it together. So to me, it then reflects spirit again in
Mm-hmm.
all of the creation things. Like there are people that what God expresses itself in
Right.
technology, in this and this, right? So this
Right.
is God's moment to do such and such. Okay, so now we're in a different situation. I don't think that God is suddenly, or spirit, or whatever you want to call it, is suddenly out of ideas and out of power and out of ingenuity and whatever else is necessary. There are those who, through whom God expresses God's self, who know what to do and are doing it. Things are not, things are happening even when we don't see them, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, with the Y2K. Okay. So that was your world at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were things we didn't see. We turned on the
Yeah.
television. That's about it. But it was going, it was going on. And I believe that same thing is happening.
Yeah. Is there sketchy stuff going on in the world now? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to know every detail about every part of it? No. Do you need to know what part is yours so that you can take the appropriate steps that are yours to take? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the balance point that we need to find. That's the balance point that we're looking for, is to not get obsessed and not be in a place of ignorance, because when the moment comes and there's some action that needs to be taken by the unique expression of the infinite that's you or that's me, we need to be aware of it. We need to hear it. We need to notice it so that we can do what's ours to do. And in the meantime, let go of what's not.
And I think that it is ours to do always, to be as positive as we can be, which takes us to that point of our faith. What do we actually believe? And what do we believe about that in which we believe in,
Mm-hmm.
however you phrase it. So this is a good time to say, okay, like, I don't know what is mine to do. But the one thing I do know is that I got to calm my little self down so that we can think, when we're all stressed out, which I understand that. I really do. I get it. We're upset. This is all new. So when things are new, you get thrown off. That's what
Mm-hmm.
happens. So let's calm our little selves down so we can think. The Bible says you cannot reason with an angry man. Angry man, upset person, whatever you want to call it. Let's calm down and know that there's good that's possible, and start churning up some of that energy that is good and helping us to be confident in that which we say we believe.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll tell you what, I've been around for a bit. I'm not starting over. No. It has taken me this lifetime to get to the place where I am so absolutely confident in that, in whom and which and all of that I believe. This is it. This is it. So I'm not looking for anything else. Faith is in this right here. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a positive. It's almost funny in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I think that's where we define ourselves and what we believe. And let's just, because I'm not looking for some other God. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
not. If that were the case, it would have shown up by now. So I know I'm on the right track.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's necessary to kick it up a notch. Let's
Yeah.
take another break, and then we're going to do a prayer. And this is in direct response to I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's Reverend Bill letting you know that the Practical Prayer for Real Results class is now available on demand. That's right, you can take it at your own pace, anytime you want. All of the information is at bethelight.com. That's b-the-light.com. You know where to find that stuff. The class is 5 lessons, broken down into 18 modules, and you can take them at whatever pace is comfortable for you. As you work through the process, it starts out with the theory, goes into the practice, there are experiential activities and exercises, and at the end of the program, you will wind up with an understanding of how practical prayer works, and a practical prayer for yourself that will work to create transformation in your life. And as you know, it works for everything. Take a look at the class online at bethelight.com. There's a sample lesson so you can see how the class is going to work for you, and then dive in. The great news is it's on sale now. You can register and save $20 off of the regular price. I'm looking forward to seeing you in class.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marcioni. Conversation has been amazing.
Yeah, wonderful talk about I don't know what to do when we're feeling overwhelmed and we got no idea what the next step is to be. And along the way, we've had a couple of suggestions. The first one is practice, practice, practice. To get involved in a spiritual practice, an ongoing spiritual practice. And as far as I'm concerned, an ongoing practical prayer practice, which sounds a little bit redundant, but it's not. A practical prayer practice is about doing the work. It's about making sure that we are always in that place of awareness of the infinite and awareness of our oneness with the infinite, because that puts us in a position where we can actually make claims and take part in this creative endeavor, this co-creative endeavor, where we are co-creating, as Carol pointed out, with the infinite. So we're going to do a prayer now. And the prayer is a direct response to I don't know what to do. And the first thing to do is to allow yourself to be quiet and to be okay and to be present with that statement, I don't know what to do. And then get the idea of what the difference would be if you did know what to do. How would that feel? What's the feeling of, oh, now I know what to do. I know what my next step is. Because that feeling is available. That understanding and awareness of the next step is available. So that's what we're going to call on. And with the awareness of the next step that's ours to take comes the guidance of when to take it and how to do it and the way to engage. And the prayer is this, that there is one power and presence, one mind, one loving creative force that has created everything, that continues to create everything. That divine essence, the creative force behind galaxies, behind everything that exists everywhere, that one divine essence that we call God or Spirit or nature or the Big Bang, the creative energy that is sharing itself as all of its creation, is sharing itself right here and right now, as me and as each of us. We are individualizations of that one divine power and presence. There is that one mind, that mind that at the beginning said, let there be, and now there is. The infinite intelligence that began exploding and unfolding and expanding in the Big Bang. Everything that exists everywhere has existed from that time. And since we can trace ourselves back in whatever our story is, to that oneness, to that singularity, to that initial intention of let there be, all of that is present everywhere. All of that is particularized and individualized, an expression of that one infinite power and presence. Well, that's true of everything. That's true of me and each one who is within the sound of my voice. We are each individualized expressions of that divine mind, of that limitless energy, of that infinite presence. And as such, all of the knowledge that's available anywhere is available everywhere, and it's available to us. The mind with which we think is that one mind. So at the time when we are concerned that we don't know what to do, we can become still and quiet and invite the infinite to inform us, to guide us, to illuminate us with an understanding, not of the entire big picture, but of what is ours to do. What is my next perfect step? And to trust in the absolute certainty that that divine intelligence, that God essence knows what to do. When I say God knows what to do, it's not a statement of exasperation. It's a claim of partnership. God knows what to do and is revealing my perfect part in it right here and right now, every step along the way. And that co-creative partnership is our willingness to take the steps that we are guided to take and then repeat the process and open to guidance again and take the next step. And that is how goodness is unfolding for each of us. Love is at hand, not some far-off idea, but right here, within our grasp. That divine creative power that abides within is creating this next experience in newness and freshness and goodness for each of us. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the guidance. I'm grateful for the peace of mind for each one as we go through this process, letting go of the thought that we don't know and opening to newness. And I'm grateful for the joyous stories we get to tell of the transformation that happens as we practice our connection and our alliance with this infinite creative power, and good and more good unfolds. So with gratitude for all this good, I speak this word and I release it into the creative law that creates everything. And I know it is now creating this. And so I let it be. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marcioni and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com.
be-the-light.com.
Where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
This podcast is supported by listeners like you. We're grateful for your tax-deductible donation at newthoughtphilly.org or the link in the episode description.